Radio of Horror, 91.3 FM, WCUW in Worcester, Massachusetts, live recording. If you're not listening to us live at midnight, then you're hopefully tuning in to us on our VidMe or YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video, as well as our other Thing videos. We have a lot of things on our website, get it? Because we're talking about The Thing. Oh, the puns are pretty bad. But with us to talk more about The Thing and other things, get it, is Steven Hoviecki, the publisher of the Thing artbook, which you can win a copy of if you go to our YouTube page, like, comment, and subscribe to the Radio Horror YouTube page, and one lucky winner will be entered to a chance to win the almost, I think it's over 400 pages, Steve?
It is 400 pages.
Jesus fucking Christ. 400 pages of Thing artwork. Not Benjamin J. Grimm, but John Carpenter's The Thing. Play music here, which is copywritten, so I'm not going to do that. There's a piece of artwork that I sent you, Steve. I don't know. I think you saw of Benjamin J. Grimm of the Fantastic Four versus John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yes, I got it.
And since you cannot absorb inorganic material, all my bets are on Blue-Eyed Benji.
Very nice. Very nice.
And pretty much The Thing of the Fantastic Four is made of inorganic material. He's made of rocks. So unless the Thing's going to do some tentacle hentai stuff by like going inside Ben's mouth or something, which I don't ever want to see drawn, Ben's going to kick that alien's ass. I mean, come on. Ben's fought Galactus. John Carpenter's The Thing would be nothing, you know? How the hell did you get all these artists together? Jesus Christ. And by the way, for anyone listening, 7 of the artists will be at the Boston Comic Con next weekend in Boston, Massachusetts. So if you have the art book, bring it to Comic Con.
Between me and my 2 business partners, we've been working in and around the comic book industry for, probably the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah,
so
like 90%
we've made
of these guys.
A lot of connections, a lot of friends, just through the in and out of the convention industry and working on stuff. I was an assistant to Walter Simonson for a little while at his in his studio. So I got to know a lot of people, and my friend John, my business partner, my creative guy, the guy who designed this beautiful, epic doorstop of a book. He is a longtime letterer for DC Comics, had been, and also an art director over there for a while. So he's got a million different comic book connections. Our third guy is a longtime business sales ad guy, so he had another whole bunch of different connections. So really this all just started from an idea we had a little over a year ago. To do this project because of I have a connection with John and Sandy Carpenter. So we thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool to do a book with artwork that's DC Comics put out a book a couple of years ago with 60 some artists, artwork inspired by Mad Max Fury Road. So we kind of got the idea that, hey, wouldn't it be cool to go back and do an older movie? And especially a touchstone movie like The Thing that, seemingly every horror fan has in their top 5 list.
Uh-huh.
So, and it was just kind of funny because when we started this off, we had our list of our guys who we knew we could get in touch with, and we're pretty sure if they were fans of the movie that they would get involved. It kind of, when we jumped off on this, we were hoping to put out a 200-page book. We were hoping that we'd be able to gather enough artists together and enough artwork that we'd be able to get a cool 200-page book, and we'd be happy with that. We started off. We reached out to a lot of people. A lot of people said yes, and we had time. So we had a deadline, 3 months off. So we weren't seeing a lot of artwork back real quickly, and so. At that point, we started reaching out to, artists we really liked ourselves in different industries, illustration, in the alt poster industry, like at Poster Posse and over at Poster Spy, a lot of those guys. And, the guys we reached out to, they were like, heck yeah, I'd love to do a piece. So, they would do something. And these guys work fast, man. Like some of these guys we would get in touch with, they'd agree to do a piece, and I'd have it back in 2 or 3 days. And I'd be blown away. And, they'd post snippets of their thing, and all their buddies who all do that same kind of stuff were all like, hey, what did you do this for? And they're like, oh, I did it for this thing art book. You should call this guy and get in touch with him. And before we knew it, we had our list had ballooned to, kind of what you see here. And this is with our original collection of guys who said that they would do pieces for the book. We probably had another 50 to 75 bail out on us before the project was over.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, I mean,
just because of schedules, timing, whatnot.
Goes without saying.
But the guys, the amount of pieces we were still able to put together despite that is still shocking to me. And honestly, ever since we shut down submissions so we could actually put the book together, I've probably gathered information on probably at least another 150 artists who have reached out and said, oh, I really wanted to be in this. Can you keep me in mind for anything else you do? So, I mean, we've got a database now of artists that, when we get our next projects lined up, we'll be able to go to them and say, hey, here's the project. What do you think?
Now, let me ask you, probably the biggest question I can think of is The Thing is owned by Universal Studios.
Correct.
Did you have to go to Universal Studios, or is
Absolutely.
this you did? Okay, so this is not considered like this isn't considered like this art book's not like in the lines of like, let's say if you wanted to make a documentary about The Thing, you don't have to go to Universal for that because documentaries are protected under educational purposes.
Right.
All these fans that are putting together these amazing horror documentaries, from like Friday the 13th to we have an It documentary, we have a RoboCop documentary coming out soon, we have a He-Man documentary coming out soon, which I did crowdfund because He-Man is pretty awesome. They don't have to call whoever owns them. I don't even know who the hell owns He-Man these days, but I don't know who owns It. I'm assuming whoever owns the original owns the remake or the new version coming out. Anyway, regardless, they don't have to call the companies and say, can I give you $150,000 for the copyright to use this in a documentary? They can just do it.
Right.
As long as they don't call it the It documentary. They have to call it the long title above about the subject matter that we all love.
Right.
How did that go about, and like, was it expensive?
So I'm not going to get into a lot of the financial details of what it took to get this done. But basically what happened is my other partner is a lot more experienced in the world of licensing and deals of this nature. So he was able to make those connections with Universal, and I'll just say this: the deal we got from Universal was very, very. It was very kind of them to do the deal that they did with us and the way they did it. I don't think that they felt necessarily that this was something that was going to bounce out there and make $1 billion. So I didn't think that they probably felt that they were losing a lot of money by letting us go ahead and do the book the way we did it.
Oh, little did they know. No, I'm kidding.
Listen, we have not sold 1 million copies of this book. Okay, so this is
we are going to do that because this freaking thing is awesome.
Well, thank you.
I'm going to bring this book, by the way, for everyone listening, and hopefully I can get this episode up online before Boston Comic Con. I am going to bring the Thing art book with me to one of the days at Boston Comic Con and have as many of the artists I can find in Artist Alley who are in the book sign it. I believe there are 7 to 8 artists, according to the back of the book. You can check it with all the artists on the Boston Comic Con website who are actually at the show. Now, some people do have the same first and last name as other people, so I'm hoping these are the same artists that are coming to the show. We will find out.
More than likely they will be.
More than likely they will be. The funniest one in the book I thought was fucking hilarious was that you have, I don't know her name, so excuse me, I could probably look at Boston Comic Con's website. She's a My Little Pony artist, and she has Thing artwork in the Thing book.
Is that Sarah Richard?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
That is so funny
does.
considering that she is being sent to the Boston Comic Con because she is a pony artist, and ponies are pretty big. And we have the
you'll also notice that Tony Fleeks did a piece for us as well.
Who now? What does he do?
He does My Little Pony also.
He does My Little Pony as well. Okay, again, there are 400 artists in there. I probably recognize 2 off the top of my head without having to research and go, oh, I do know who this is. It was Bill
Sienkiewicz.
Thank you very much, because I can never pronounce his name correctly. and Ben Templesmith, whose artwork I recognize anywhere.
Yeah, Ben's a good friend.
Yeah, Ben is fantastic. If anyone wants his like original stuff, go to his website and buy his Dagon book. Fucking great. And and if you are into hentai, go buy his Squid Girls book. Awesome. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Just saying.
His new Viking stuff is gorgeous as well.
Yes, his Viking stuff is gorgeous. I will highly say this. Make sure you are over 18 in purchasing his private, personal stuff that he usually does like on Kickstarter or something, because that stuff is not for children. Actually, none of his artwork really is for children. But let's just say his horror stuff is never for children. His comic book stuff, like he draws Batman. He did a Gotham by Dark Knight, whatever the hell it was called, Midnight GCPD Supernatural Crew book. And that was pretty much okay for kids. But his horror stuff is never, ever, ever for children. Okay, I'm not going to ask you who your favorite artist in the book is, because you have 400 children in there, and that would be choosing favorites. But how do I ask this? Like, okay, here's a better question: who was an artist that you absolutely wanted to get and you couldn't get? You didn't even get like a afterthought submission, like, oh shit, I just found out you're doing this. Here's something, but it's too late. Who's somebody you couldn't get and you still are hoping to work with them one day?
And
they have to be alive.
No. It's it's funny. Like I said, we had probably 50 or 60 guys that kind of bail on us last minute just because of, for whatever reason. Some gave us reasons, some didn't give us reasons. Some guys, were kind enough to give us a few weeks notice. They told us that, we had originally a deadline of the end of January. And they got a hold of us in January, and we were just like, listen, I'm not going to be able to make it for the book. I'm really sorry. And it's like, listen, I understand. We're not. This is not a big, operation where we're, sending checks out to all these guys and everything else. So it's, that I understood. I'd say probably the one piece that I was looking most forward to that we didn't get was Mark Silvestri.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah. God, I mean, he's probably so busy running Top Cow.
He's busy drawing. He is, his work is, as in the last few years, has become just unbelievably dense and busy and gorgeous. And I'm sure it's incredibly time consuming. But like most artists these days, he keeps a rack of movies that he plays as background noise in his studio.
Yeah.
And he when we talked to him, we told him what we were doing with this book. He actually said, he kind of stopped what he was doing and he said, listen, are you kidding me? He goes, the thing is like one of my top 3 movies. He goes, I play it at least once a week in the studio. So he was jazzed to do it. And again, it was one of those situations where he just, he couldn't get it done. But that was probably the piece I was most looking forward to seeing. But, listen, we got pieces in the book that, I mean, it absolutely took my breath away, and things that we never would have expected in a million years.
Just going back to Mark really quick, his you look at his old 80s stuff or whatever and compared to stuff today, and I really like his stuff today versus from back in the day.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I was actually just having this conversation with someone about Mark's work recently. So Mark got his start with Marvel Comics.
Yep.
Doing
X-Men.
King Conan.
Oh, I thought it was on X-Men. Okay.
Yeah, well, no, this is before that.
Okay.
So he started off doing issues of King Conan, and so I had run across a couple issues and noticed his name in them because I didn't know until that point either, and so I had gone up and jokingly put that down in front of him, and he just kind of said get the hell out of here. But no, I'm just kidding. Mark is the absolute the biggest sweetheart. But it was funny because you can go back and you can look at that work, which is when he kind of was breaking in, and his work, while still, it didn't have a lot of what you see Mark doing now, but the one part of it, when you look through those old issues of Conan, he's very clearly doing a version of John Buscema, but he's the one place you can see Mark, and that has never changed, is in his women's faces.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
can look at the women's faces in that old King Conan stuff and say that's a Sylvester woman's face.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I now that I'm remembering um, I think it was like on a Witchblade documentary with like the anime show or something. Him actually mentioning the King Conan thing starting off. Now that I recollect, now that you mentioned King Conan, it's a flashback to me. Um, was there? You guys also had a forward by Eli Roth, which was pretty cool.
Yes.
Eli Roth was just on a radio show here in Boston, the Maddie and Nick show. He's a friend of one of the two DJs.
Oh, cool.
Not very hard, also considering that he's a Massachusetts native as well.
Right.
He does a little forward in the beginning of the book, and then you have he has something that he actually drew for the book itself too, right?
No, he drew that when he was 12.
No, but like later on in the book, so he doesn't have any type of like regular artwork in the book, not from his.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
That was a drawing that he still had from when he was 12 years old. And I'll tell you a funny story. So when we approached Eli about this, he was instantly open about it because so the anecdote he mentions in the foreword, and if you haven't read it yet, I apologize. But the so when he was a kid, he used to come after he had seen the movie. He used to come home from school and he would hand draw. He was making a stop motion animation and hand drawing every frame of the sequence of the head coming off and turning into the spider and walking away. And he finished with it and he got done with it. And his dad took the film to get it developed, and he got it back in hand and realized when he went to play it that he had shot the entire thing out of focus.
Oh no.
Yes, the weeks and weeks of work, but the pleasure of working with real film at the time. But he actually gave us a copy of the video. We actually have a copy of the movie he made, which is pretty funny.
That's hilarious. You know what's kind of funny is that when I see the black and white artwork people do for the thing, I like it more than the colored stuff sometimes.
Yeah, it's it's the artists, the range of artists that we got for the book, and my designer was he tried to really kind of frame that properly in the book as you go through because he didn't want that clash of having the full color dynamic pieces against the black and white. So you'll see a lot of black and white stuff facing black and white pages, just so that like when you get to a page and you open it, you're not like instantly drawn to one or the other. It still has that sort of flow as you go through the book. I mean, he's a seasoned book designer, and he thinks about a lot more stuff in a lot more depth than I ever could. So I mean, it's I'm grateful to have him on our team.
What other art books have you guys put out? I noticed there's some other stuff that you guys have done besides the thing, like for you've done some. Oh, excuse me. You done some...
No, this is our first.
This is your first. Okay, so the prints I was looking at from Alien, that's not connected to any art book for Alien?
No. I believe me. If I could pull off doing an Alien art book, believe me, that's high on my wish list.
Oh my god! I mean, you have what would you demand it be about one of the films and not the 7 that we have, or 8 or 9 or whatever number we're up to? I think we're up to 6 if you just count the Alien films with Prometheus and Covenant.
Correct, and I would not put that unless we had that limit put on us by our agreement with the studio.
Yeah,
I would not have it set to one particular film in a genre.
Okay, and I think,
or I'd say in a series.
I think with something like that, and this is just a suggestion, I don't know how any of this stuff works. Let me tell you, I'm trying to get a comic book produced right now. It is fucking hard. Okay, wow. I'm paying for it out of pocket. Got to pay the artist. The artist just had a motorcycle accident. Just finally got back to work. It's like, and this has been going on since.
I've been doing this for years.
So I mean, I'll send you some images of what this art from this Dracula comic book is gonna look like. We gender swapped We gender swapped the entire cast of Dracula.
All right.
Yeah. But anyway, long story short, I think something with Alien, because now this is something I am familiar with because I work with them a lot. Titan Books owns like all the publishing stuff for Alien, the exception of like whatever Dark Horse Comics makes. And they put out like the novels, they put out all the different like Weyland Yutani stuff like that. So maybe that's something like you guys could like call them up and say, hey, would there anybody we could like work together on a collaboration between our two companies?
Yeah, that's already in the works.
Oh, you heard it here first. Are they hearing it here first? Or did you say this in another interview?
We have at Comic-Con we had a couple of meetings with a couple of international distribution companies because we're self-distributing this book just because we didn't have any kind of deal in place for international or anything like that.
Yeah.
So as we've gone deeper into this and are wanting to do more licensed material with the studios want to ensure that we have worldwide distribution on these projects. So we've basically taken those steps to ensure that we can make those deals first before we really jump into kind of announcing and kind of getting in hand what are going to be our next projects.
Oh, okay, because my next question going to be, what is the next thing you guys are working on that you could announce?
Yeah, nothing I can announce. We have a number of places that have seen the book, very much like the book.
It's an art book about human centipede. What? Oh my god!
Yeah,
no,
there we go. big fan of Tom Mix.
Oh
big
my
fan.
god! Despite the fact that people like are not as big of fans of Human Centipede as they are The Thing. If you had heard there was a Human Centipede art book coming out, that fucking thing would sell.
It would sell at least 10 copies.
There was an art book I saw. I can't remember it. It's killing me. I heard somebody is doing a Giger homage book, which which is very easy to make it just a giant alien book because Giger designed the alien. But there's other things in there besides the the freaking xenomorph like sucking its own cock, which is basically the image that we all are familiar with. The xenomorph, whatever, has got this giant freaking phallic shaped thing in front of his face, which I always call it the xenomorph sucking its own cock. But I heard somebody's doing, and I don't know if it's in America, so it might be in Sweden, so it might be forever before we ever see it, like a Giger Necronomicon-inspired book. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I'd heard that. I don't know anything more about it. I've looked on Kickstarter, just typing in HR Giger. Couldn't find anything. I've just found keywords of like, oh, my project is Giger-like, not the Giger art book. You know what I mean? Now,
right.
I would hope that maybe I misheard, and what we're actually going to get is a bunch of brand new Giger artwork nobody has seen since he died.
Right.
Which I would much rather have. No offense to any artist out there, I'd much rather have an entire brand new art book published of never before seen Giger work, cleaned up, recolored, finished, whatever, by other artists, by Giger himself, than a bunch of homage pieces. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I can see homage pieces in anybody that I interview and ask them about where did you inspire your stuff from, because I'm seeing a bit of Giger in there, and they say yes. I'd rather see, like, from the master himself, brand new stuff that he either couldn't complete because of his stroke, or he did complete and was planning on publish, and I just haven't heard anything. So, fingers crossed,
Yeah, I'll have to keep an ear out for that.
Exactly. Because the Thing has got some Giger stuff in there, in its design, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that biomechanical feel to a lot of different parts of Botine's and Plug's designs.
Did you are you a big fan of the somewhat prequel / remake reimagining CGI nightmare that was the 2011 version?
It's funny. I just actually rewatched it about 3 weeks ago. I hadn't watched it since it came out. I don't dislike it. I see where I think that they, from what I understand, from what I have heard after the fact, is that they had planned to do all the effects as practical effects. And they had already started work on them when they kind of ran into budget issues and just said, screw it, we're going to do them all CG. Which I think at the end of the day was probably with this movie especially, something that would polarize a lot of the people that you hope to kind of get behind it against it, just because of the history with, and with John's film. Outside of the effects, which, I mean, listen, they're CG effects, they're fine. They are what they are. I don't hate the movie. I like that it absolutely definitively dovetails right into John's film. Other than that, it's a Hollywood reboot, redo, that they managed to work out the timelines to make it make sense at the end. So it's fine.
Did you see the practical effects video that had
Yes.
been put together? I mean, that's beautiful.
Yes.
And I hope that one day, because you can never say never again, the James Bond movie. But we got Nightbreed like 25 years later, and nobody ever thought we were going to get the version of Nightbreed that we got with all the extra creatures and stuff. And yeah, the movie's a little pacey at times because of that. I mean, it's like 2.5 hours long, and you're like, no offense to Clive Barker, but it is a bit of a snooze. However, you get a lot of cool extra creatures we didn't get to see before. I mean, I don't know what Universal Studios is doing, if they own all that extra footage, if there's enough of a fan demand out there. Someone told me it's always a matter of, like, if the DVD or the Blu-ray doesn't sell, and since no one's buying movies anymore, it's, maybe it could become like a Scream Factory thing one day, because Scream Factory did just put out The Thing, in their Blu-ray. So we might get the prequel with the the practical effects added back in.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Did you ever see like the Thing edit online where they cut the end of the sequel? The prequel into the original.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's kind of like they just did that for. I think it's the same company actually. They also just did it for Rogue One and A New Hope.
Oh, interesting.
So where the Tavern 4 like goes into hyperspace immediately, and then they cut to the credits. So it just goes to it just like fades back up into 1 second of them coming out of hyperspace and the Star Destroyer following them as the opening scene is in Star Wars.
That's cool. I mean, I like the idea. There's a lot of really interesting stuff. I tend to stay away from YouTube because it sort of turns into a black hole of time for me.
Yeah, trust me, I know. And I'm on YouTube.
Yeah, well, I tend to start finding, I'll get, like this, I'll find an interesting hook, and then all of a sudden I'll find a guy who's been posting videos for the last 3 or 4 years, and I'll be like, oh, this is interesting. And all of a sudden it's 3 hours later, and I'm like, shit, I got to get stuff done, and it's, I tend to stay away from YouTube unless I've got literally nothing else to do,
or you're like sick in bed, or you're like it's a lazy Sunday, so you're
right,
like, I don't want to reach for the remote because the pad's right here. There's stuff on YouTube. Let's see who did a video about my book.
Can't reach remote.
No, but pad is plugged in next to me. Oh, look, it's 10 reasons, the 10 things Marvel wants you to forget about Daredevil. Or the new Avenger trailer just came out. Somebody asked me. I didn't do this intentionally, folks. For anyone listening, I've seen the comments on Reddit where I posted the video and I blocked you on Reddit because you're kind of an asshole. Same person keeps commenting on my post, and then a friend of mine reposted it on another section of Reddit. I didn't realize the camera when I was filming the unboxing video for Steve's fantastic book was the way it was. So when I posted the video on YouTube, it's kind of letterboxed. However, somebody did comment saying, I don't think you did that intentionally. It does look a little off-putting, but I like the fact that the camera is focused directly on the art of the book, so you're not like distracted by accident by whatever's on either side. So each page is in the single frame of the book, even though you got giant black boxes on the left and the right. So I appreciate that comment. My unintentional stupidity will remind me next time to turn my auto flip camera thing on my phone. So anyone watching the video, as I've seen it several times, again, at least the video, the camera focuses directly on the page that's open. So It's
And listen, anyone who hasn't fallen victim to that is a liar. So
yeah.
quite frankly, I don't even consider that in my viewing of videos anymore. I just think that, all right, so somebody shot it with their phone.
I'm not much of an art critic, so I definitely have I have no criticism about this book at all. But in terms of just like one person's art versus someone else's art, I'm not an art critic. For anyone who watches the video and anyone who wants to enter the contest, again, we are giving away a free copy of this book. So go to the YouTube page, Radio Horror, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel to be entered in the contest that we will pull on either Thursday or Friday, depending on what time I get out of work and what time I get home from the Boston Comic Con. You can get this book, and then you can see everything about the book. And like I said, the book, it just kind of like gives you a preview of what the book looks like. And my only critique is my own just like personal opinion. As I said to Steve, I like the black and white a little bit more than I like the color. There is one image in the book I thought was like poster like quality. It just looks so beautiful. It's just this image. It just says The Thing, and it's got the dog right below it, and half the dog is like red and the other half is the normal dog color of like black and white. I don't know who that. I can't remember who it is because I don't have the book in front of me. But that was it was so simple. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about this is no, you can't help you can't help but do that. The
waka waka.
When we were when we were getting the artwork in for this and it started to get close to the deadline for the turn in for the submissions, it was amazing to be able to wake up every day and open up my email and see 4 or 5 new pieces of artwork like every day, sometimes more. And just the consistency of work that we got out of artists, who were basically just doing out of the love of the movie. It still just completely blows me away when I sit down and I've looked through this, the content of this book. I've been back and forth over 1 million times. I know some of these pieces probably a little better than I should, but I still just am amazed and blown away just by the quality of the pieces that people turned in.
What's funny? Something someone mentioned to me on a Facebook post, I forget where, asking me, I'm surprised an art book still sells in 2017 when you can get art online for free. And I asked him, are you talking about like illegally stealing someone else's artwork or just borrowing it to put it on your like wall or something, and you're not, as long as you're not making a profit off of someone else's artwork, which I don't really have a problem. Someone's like, oh, I'm gonna make this my wallpaper or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's fine. But if you're like blatantly printing it out, going to a convention like assholes do, and sell prints of someone's artwork, yeah, then you should be like, oh, by the way, at Rhode Island Comic Con, I accidentally dumped my soda all over someone's table when they were doing that. And I walked away
accidentally.
Oh yeah, very accidental. I walked away and all I could hear was, "Who the beeping son of a beep? I'm gonna find it!" And I was like laughing hysterically because I knew this person was stealing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because I don't know who any of the artists were. I probably recognize maybe 1 or 2, but I was like, this guy is not the artist. And sure enough, I found out no, he wasn't. And
there's a lot of that on, especially on the Facebook stuff. People, the stuff that pops up as Facebook ads. That's like, hey, if you're a fan of Blade Runner, check out this piece of artwork. You can get this mounted on a skin, and and it comes ready to frame and ready to hang on your wall.
Yeah.
And the thing is the piece in the ad is a piece of art by one of our artists, and it's actually the piece that made me go find him. So I knew, and he works out of Poland. So I was pretty sure that he had nothing to do with this or was making nothing off of this.
Yep.
So, and same thing. I was at a comic book show in Kansas City, and I was walking through the floor, and here's one of these big poster dealers, and he's got one of my artist's pieces that he did for Stranger Things up as a 24 by 36 poster. Now, so I literally called the guy up and I said, hey, did you sell the rights to your piece to anybody to go make posters of it and sell them? And he's like, no. And I said, all right, because there's a guy here selling posters of this. I go, if you want, I'll gladly go up and, knock this guy over. And he's just like, nah. He's like, it is what it is. It's out there on the web and blah blah blah. He didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but I was just, it digs at me a little more now than it used to.
I think going back to an early part of our conversation, and then I'm going to let you go because I don't want to take too much of your time. I think we did this off the air. You mentioned possibly being in town with an artist. Oh, it's the part that I'm going to cut out. That's right. I think and you said you're going to be in town. We have actually a Necronomicon, the H.P. Lovecraft celebration coming up in Rhode Island. Are you coming in town for that?
No, I don't have any plans to.
Oh, okay. So I thought maybe
the only shows I have planned to attend between now and the end of the year are I'll be at Long Beach Comic Con in September out in LA, and let's see. I thought there was something else, something in October. Oh, New York Comic Con, duh.
Okay. Yep.
But we won't be set up. We might have the books for sale there. Aspen Comics will probably be selling our books for us. I'll be at the show working my day job.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately.
All right.
But other than that, anybody can still go to the website and pick up the book. I think we actually still even have copies of the San Diego slipcase exclusive still available as well.
That looks really cool. Is that piece of artwork on the front of the slipcase in the book itself, or is that original for the slipcase?
No, the two pieces we used on the slipcase and on the cover, that's Bill Sienkiewicz's and Tony Harris's pieces.
Okay. Yeah, I recognized Bill's. I didn't know if the first one. I haven't gone through the book page by page by page. I read Eli Roth and I read John Carpenter's thing, but most of my time spent with the book has been like looking up the artists of the Boston Comic Con and doing the video.
Right.
It's 400 pages, okay, man? I know it's just looking at pictures, but it's still almost like reading 400 pages as well. Now, can you imagine doing another art book like this, but you actually have like some like little thing from the artist about like my inspiration for this piece that I did is about like this thing and the so on and so forth, yada yada yada.
Yeah, I mean, we've had long discussions about future books and future projects, and we are by no means under any sort of false illusions that we're going to hit a 400-page book out of every single project we do. I mean, there's just no way. There's a couple of them that I think we could very easily hit that.
Yeah,
that we may end up doing multiple volumes rather than a large volume this size again. It just depends on, again, the amount and quality. One of the things when we started this out is I spent a lot of time online looking up already existing fan art and alt poster art and a lot of stuff that had already been done. And I would just pull images off the web, and I have a folder on one of my computers that's got probably 200 images in it of some really, just dynamite stuff. And I was so afraid because I would go through this folder and I would just click through these images and I would just be like, man, I really hope that, we can get enough. I got asked early on by one of the artists. He said, I approached him about the project, and he said, yeah, I'm in, count me in, I'll do a piece. He goes, so how are you guys, what are you telling people, how, basically asking me how we're going to art direct the project. And from the beginning, we've been about the artist doing a piece for something that they love. So we don't want to art direct artists. We want them, when we do the alt poster stuff that we've done in the past, we would bring a list of movies to an artist and say, hey, do any of these movies speak to you? And they would usually pick one and go, oh my God, I love this movie. I really want to do this one. We're like, okay, great. Because we know we're going to get a great piece out of them if they love the property. So, he was like, well, how are you, how are you going to keep from getting 100 pictures of the dog? And I said, I don't know that I can. I go, we fully expect to get 100 pictures of the dog. And the fact that we didn't get 100 pictures of the dog says to me that there's just so much more creativity out there than a lot of people realize. And that's really another part of what we're doing with these, with this and the other proposed projects we have is there's so many of the artists we have in this book. I mean, we out of the 365 artists we have in the book, people have probably who are in the illustration or art industry or comic industry, they'll probably have heard of at any given guy will have heard of maybe 100, 150, if they're really well versed, maybe 200 of the guys in this book.
Yeah.
I would be hard pressed to find anyone who would know everyone's work in this book.
Yeah, they would definitely have to be like a true diehard art collector. Now, just one last question because we gotta end this. There's so many questions this could go on forever and ever and ever and ever.
Right?
I mean, literally, if I had the book in front of me, I didn't bring the book specifically for the reason that this interview would never end. I would just be like, all right, let's start in the beginning. Last question: how many of the artists?
Perfectly open to do multiples.
We might have to do that. We might have to do. Oh my God, we'll do a page by page interview. How about that?
Oh my goodness. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. How many of the artists in the book are actually comic book artists?
Geez, I don't have that number off the
top
of my
head. All right, that's fine. We don't need to go much more. We don't need to go into actually more than that.
Let's see. Just real quick.
Okay.
I mean, like working well-known comic book artists
that you're aware are actual comic book artists.
Yeah. I'd say probably out of the 365, I'd say probably 65, 70 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we had guys. I mean, that was the bulk of our connection, our experience when the industry was in comics. So that's where we went to initially.
Okay.
So once we had that bulk of people drop out that we had connections to from that, but then we started getting all these new connections, then it was turned into a different monster.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Steve, thank you so much for taking time out to talk exhaustively about this thing artwork. Again, it could go on and on and on, especially page by page by page, which would be a lot of fun. We'll do an audiobook for the blind because even they're
you know what, you can just do a page a week.
Exactly. Oh my God. Now I am brainstorming this on like YouTube or something. No, I can't do that because I want people to buy the book. If I do that,
I'm on board.
Yeah. No. Anyway, long story short, thank you again, Steve, for coming on the show. If you missed part of this interview, you want to catch the whole thing, it'll be on VidMe and YouTube soon. Don't forget to join our Radio Horror YouTube channel right now until Thursday or Friday of this week. Otherwise, you will miss an opportunity to get a copy of this book for free. And then if you own a copy of the book already, make sure you go on to your local comic book website, Comic-Con website for any city you're in, because you might find some thing artists going to your con, such as the Boston Comic-Con is going to have at least 7 or 8 of those artists. I can't tell you who they all are because I didn't write that information down, but you can do your research yourself as all the artists are in alphabetical order in the back of the book, which is very helpful. Once again, Steve, thank you very much for coming on the show. Why don't you give out the name of the website for people to go to buy the book?
You can pick it up at printedinblood, all one word, .com. Everything's there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Steve.
Thanks a lot.